Welcome back to another riveting adventure of the Golden Adventure. Welcome back for another riveting adventure in an episode called This is Golden Age of Gear.
You nailed that one, bud. Just nailed it.
That intro is like when my daughter tries to tell me about like when something happens in a specific time. When she was like, yeah, well, yesterday I'm going to drive the car. My brain is so broken.
Well, it's tough because, as we outed ourselves on this before, we shoot multiple of these in a day, and they all start like the exact same way where you're like, all right, everybody, what are we talking about today?
Hey, what's up, you guys? Yeah.
Hey, kids.
Yeah.
We got something fun for you. Like, how do you come up with something new to say besides, hey, guess what? Today we're looking at Joey's Maxon
OSD9.
That's right.
So, on the same trip that I found the Blue Box, which I don't know which episode's going to air when, so I found an MXR Blue Box. I also found this OSD9, which I wasn't super familiar with. I do love an SD9. But this one, I also got at Capsule, and I've been kind of like eyeing it up for a couple years, and I was just like, it's $89.95 or $99.
Yeah.
I got to get it. I also discovered that that's actually worth quite a bit more. Nowhere near as
The old Blue Box.
The old Blue Box, but
Nice.
I paid less than $100 for it, and I could probably turn around and sell it for $200 or $300.
All right, so this is going to sound a little bit pretentious.
Here we go.
But how often have you looked at pedals that are like only $100 and been like, I've been eyeing this up for years and not just bought them?
You know what? I kept talking myself out of this one because I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure what it was because I knew it wasn't like an SD9 because it doesn't have the tone pot, and I was not familiar with it at all, and I just kept talking myself out of buying it because it was like I don't know, maybe.
Hey pals, here at the Golden Age of Gear, we just love talking about gear because we believe that this truly is the golden age of gear. And if you want to hear more about golden aged gear, you can go ahead and look down low on the banner part of your screen. And then you can look for the button that's shaped like a fucking bell. And you can subscribe to our channel.
It kind of sucks.
Honestly, if it doesn't look like a cheap like Amazon shit pedal, anything that's under $100 that I have any interest in at all.
Yeah, but
I'm
you're
gonna buy
rich.
it. I am not, but I do have enough money to buy an $89 pedal.
Well,
So
on this day, so did I.
yeah, this day you were flush with
Yeah. I was
$89
full of crisp.
plus.
Who's the guy on the Canadian $20 bill? Oh, it's the Queen.
Oh, hey, were you?
Sorry. Pockets full of Queenies.
Okay, you're a decent amount younger than I am. Do you remember when? Sorry to everybody who's not Canadian.
You remember?
But do you remember when dollar bills had birds on them?
I don't remember dollar bills. Yeah.
Okay.
So I remember $2 bills.
Yeah. And it had what on it?
Birds. Yeah, yeah.
It had a robin on it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. My wife and I got talking about this because I was talking about, I'm like, yeah, I remember like, I can't remember if it was what, the 20 had the goose, but like we were talking about the Cobra chicken.
The old Cobra chicken.
And how the Canadian goose is like the most terrifying animal in Canada.
Do they call the Canada goose everywhere? Or do they just call it a goose?
I think they call it a Canada goose everywhere.
Right.
I think we own that shit.
Yeah, yeah. Murder chicken.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
The prairie cobra chicken.
Prairie Cobra chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're nasty.
They are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it sucks when they take over a golf course and like you don't golf at all, do you?
No,
This
because
is
I'm not a
irrelevant to
huge
you.
virgin.
Oh.
All the other virgins in their khaki shorts are going, hey.
Anyway,
The
thanks,
last time I went golfing, somebody made fun of the pants I was wearing because I didn't wear goofy ass pants, and I was like,
oh really?
fuck golf.
That was the thing that
That was
made
the thing. I was
yeah.
just like, we're whacking this little ball around, chasing each other, and this guy's all mad because I'm wearing jeans. I'm not doing this anymore.
Oh yeah, I could see that. I've golfed with people that are like super, super precious about like, you're not wearing a like golf shirt, like a collared.
Yeah,
like,
this was handmade in Scotland.
Yeah, this is what Tiger wears. So Yeah, now I golf in flip flops and jorts and
George.
and the same black T-shirt I'm wearing right now.
And he only plays for beers.
Yeah, but the worst is when geese take over a golf course and there's just goose shit everywhere.
Just the worst.
It's the worst.
Absolute objective worst when a goose takes over your golf course.
But anyway, yeah, I've just found it interesting that a bunch of people that I've talked to didn't remember when our money had birds on one side of it. And for a while, there's birds on every bill. Dorian, you remember that? You're old like me. Dorian, see, he remembers.
There's what I do remember is right when the toonie came out, when they discontinued the $2 bill and they brought in the $2 coin. And there's Queen Elizabeth on one side, and then there's a polar bear on the other side.
Yes.
And I remember there was a joke where it's like, there's, what is it, one, two, there's four animals on it.
Okay.
And they would go, you'd flip the coin upside down and cover the bear's body and just leave the legs. You go, oh, there's penguins. And then you'd flip it another like 90 degrees and cover like the head and the front legs. And you go, look, a T-Rex. And obviously a polar bear. And then you flip the coin over and go, and there's a cow. And it was the queen.
Nice.
That's, rude. But
also funny.
yeah, may she rest in peace.
Yes. Also, if you're on money, I don't care.
Yeah, you're going to be
doing fine.
Yeah.
If your face is on money, I don't think you care.
I saw something recently where King Charles, the new monarch, was doing something with Mark Carney, and they introduced him as Charles, King of Canada. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess we're still part of the Commonwealth, so technically he's still the king. Not really, like politically, but that's the weirdest thing. The King of Canada. Sounds like a joke.
I don't know. I'm going to probably catch flack for this, but I could give two shits about any of the royal family stuff.
Dude, one time I was standing in line at Safeway, and somebody was, who was I with? Somebody pointed at like the royal magazine. They have that.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, look at them. And I was like, who fucking cares about these people? And the lady in front of me was like, oh, I do. And they're wonderful people. I don't know what that accent is. She definitely wasn't Irish, because the Irish hate the monarchs. But I think she was Scottish. I'm so sorry for doing that. I never should have done that. Gets canceled. And I just caught myself in this one moment where I decided to run my mouth off. And of course, there's a Scottish lady who just loves the Queen.
Yeah.
Anyways, and that which brings us all the way back around to the Maxon OSD9
Yes.
overdrive pedal.
Because it's overdrive royalty, kind of. Adjacent. Yeah. See what I did there?
I do. I like it. The SD9 is the reason I love the SD9 is like one of my favorite guitar players of all time, Mike Landau. That was his like number one drive.
Okay.
And it's an interesting pedal because it's very brittle sounding, and there are challenges with it, but when you dial it in right, it's got a really, really, really unique feel. And it cleans up kind of like a fuzz face. It gets a lot, like there's a lot of gain on tap. It's a really interesting circuit that can sound pretty bad in the wrong sort of situation.
Yeah.
But I got really into them a couple of years ago and bought a bunch of modded ones and some original ones. And I've been eyeing up this one at Capsule for a couple of years, and I just decided to pull the trigger. And to my surprise, it actually sounds very similar to the SD9.
I have a confession to make. I did not realize that any of the pedals that look like this, like Maxon, Ibanez, any of them that were green and in that enclosure, I did not realize that they were not just tube screamers. So let us know in the comments how many of you guys were the same as me, or if you have always known that there was
I was
differences.
born knowing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I never.
No,
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why I never got into like the infatuation with like these crazy session players. I just didn't not until honestly I was like well into my 30s before I even had half a clue who
I think
Lukather was.
It was really like a product of my sort of, people are like watching this like we're at 9 minutes and these guys haven't played anything yet.
I know. I'm trying to push to see if we get to 10.
Oh, I mean, we're gonna
Yeah.
Let's see if we can get to 15.
Yeah. For all of you that bitch about the fact that we don't play early enough.
Thanks for watching our show, loser.
Exactly. And we're done.
Anyway,
and on the final episode of
Golden Age
Gear.
series finale. I grew up like idolizing Murray and
Yes.
all of his peers, and to me when I was coming up, these guys were session players,
Yes.
and so I really just looked up to these guys who were very versatile, could play a bunch of different styles of music, like were real students of the instrument, and it wasn't until later that I got like really into songwriting, but for me, like I wasn't necessarily into a certain kind of music as much as I was into, I don't know, like the culture of the session person. So
Gotcha.
Lukather and Mike Landau and Dan Huff and like all those sort of like LA guys, Michael Thompson, like just was really into that. And I don't know why this sort of style of pedal was really popular, if it was more because it was like there wasn't a lot of options.
Right.
And so, you just learned how to get, because like if you plug right into this and you just leave your controls wide open, it's not the most remarkable sounding thing.
All right, let's hear that.
Okay.
There you go. We made it to 10 minutes so you can hear it.
Okay, so here it is wide open.
Sounds pretty good.
It sounds pretty good. Yeah, it does sound really good. But where it kind of excels is like when you start to get your controls involved and like I don't know. There's something about it that I really, really like, and I've definitely heard people who hate them.
I think it sounds really great, and it's a very foreign idea to me to use the tone control for anything.
Right.
I understand what it does, and I understand why people use it. I just never bother.
I feel like it has, and I could completely be talking out of my ass here, but I feel like it has more of an impact when you play with your fingers than with a pick. And I mean, it's kind of a pretty big generalization to make, but for me, like when I'm playing with a pick, if I'm doing like more pick heavy kind of stuff, I'm like more likely to have the tone wide open. Whereas if I'm doing something like, I just even do it instinctively. I use the tone knob to soften it a bit. Versus wide open. I mean, it's subtle difference, but it really affects the way it feels to me.
I can hear it. Do you think that's because you're kind of plucking more than just?
I think so.
Like you're pulling on it, so it's snapping. What do you guys think?
That's what he said.
Does it translate it all into the YouTube video? I don't know. That's what I hear.
I would imagine that it
right
does. That's one of the things that I love about Landau's playing is he's so dynamic, and like the difference between, I mean, even his pickup selection, and it's pretty common for a lot of those guys of that sort of ilk and era, Lukather and all the other folks I mentioned. Landau, when he changes his pickup, you often hear him turn certain pedals off. Like there's such sounds associated,
Right.
all over the guitar, and so and then when you watch him play, he'll change pickup and then readjust, like always on the fly. So there's just I don't know what my point is there, but I think that's maybe where I picked that up from, was just listening to a lot of that music and hearing how the guitar sound changes as they play. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I'm not making any sense, but I understand why people don't like these circuits. Like I really, really do. But there's something about them that is really, really special. I mean, the one thing, I haven't spent a lot of time playing this one, but with SD9s is they clean up really, really well with your volume pot. So like this is, you know, fairly. Yeah, it gets pretty sparkly as you roll things off.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to take it for a spin.
Give her.
Yeah, it does clean up really well.
Yeah.
It does sound a little boxy to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know if that's just the mid-range character on it. Not bad.
The stock SD9s have like almost problematically less mid-range.
Okay.
And that's one of the criticisms of them is that they've got a fair amount of bottom end, a fair amount of top end, and they're quite scooped. So like a lot of modifications that get done to the SD9 is adding mid-range or adding a mid-range control.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still cool. And again, for $90, like
it's a sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's better for single note playing than chords. Like
more of a solo boost kind of thing.
Yeah. It's cool though. And it's just level and drive, that's it, eh?
That's it.
So how's it?
That's pretty cool.
That sounds fantastic. Oh, it has like a little bit of clean bleed, like the
yeah,
like
that sounds great.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah. So what would you say is the big difference between the OSD versus the SD9? Like, what does the O add?
The O adds a little bit of
Awesome.
Oh, don't know.
Makes it more awesome.
Makes it more awesome. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's called the Overdrive Soft Distortion. So I don't know if this was like a precursor or something. Like, I have no idea. But like the SD9 is called the Sonic Distortion. And it's definitely a little more. It's definitely like. At face value, I would say it's a little more open sounding, where this is a little more mid-range focused. So this is, I think they're both very, very heavily related to the Tube Screamer. I think they're like sort of start with the Tube Screamer and modify kind of thing. So
yeah, weird. Why would you do that when you have it in that enclosure? Strange. It would make it like a Tube Screamer.
Who knows?
I mean, yeah. And
the name Maxon also makes me think that like the other thing the company does is provide food for like a school cafeteria or something.
Like Cisco.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. You need some toilet paper rolls refilled in your bathroom? Call Maxon Industries. I don't know, but I like. I think maybe there's a fair amount of nostalgia involved in this for me, but
Sure.
I just love the way these pedals look, and that may affect things for me. Who knows? But
I remember being so hyped about getting a tube screamer when I got one, because like most guitar players, I went through like a Stevie Ray Vaughan phase where I was trying my hardest to get Stevie's tones. It failed miserably.
oh yeah,
like
I mean,
so miserably.
very few people get close.
Yeah, and I remember when I got the tube screamer, and I'm sure it was because I had just spent, whatever, 120 or $150, whatever it was for a tube screamer back in the day. Probably, yeah, it might have been like 100 or $120. They weren't overly expensive.
Yeah.
I remember being like, yeah, this is it. This is the sound. Like, this sounds fantastic. You know what my least favorite of the overdrives is now?
Tube screamer.
Tube screamer.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how I thought it was cool in the past. I'm not trying to shit on the tube screamer. I know tons of people use them.
Yeah.
And I know tons of people use them, especially to tighten up high gain amps. In the past few years, Sam kind of introduced me to that. And, I definitely see how it's useful,
Yeah.
especially with like rectifiers. And, but yeah, like for like that slightly broken up, like overdriven tone, that Stevie gets, like, yeah, I remember I used it nonstop. I wouldn't even use the crunch channel on my amp. I would use the clean channel with my TS9 for this like overdrive crunch tone. And now when I play that same thing, I'm like, what in the hell was I hearing or thinking?
I've had two vintage tube screamers. Both were given to me on trade, and I had an 808, like a pretty early one, and then a really early TS9. And I was like, when I got both of them, I didn't get them at the same time, but each time I got one, I was like, okay, this is it. I'm gonna go down this rabbit hole, and I turn them on, and for about 5 minutes, I'd be like, whoa, this is really cool. And then I would play it a little longer and just be like,
Yeah.
And same thing, like same as you. I know lots of people who love them, and when they play them, they sound fantastic.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work for me.
Yeah, I mean, I often wonder, like, if Stevie had lived longer or if Hendrix had lived longer, would they have stuck to, like, the fuzz face, or would they have stuck to the TS9s? Or as, like, gear evolved, would they have been like, oh, get that shit out of here. This is the
like
new thing.
Vemiram Jan Ray.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably.
Like, yeah.
Who knows? Or either that, or it would be like Eric Johnson, where it's like, not only am I using the same things, but I'm using the same cables that I've been using since 1976.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
so, yeah, I don't know.
I don't know that Eric Johnson still uses the same cables, but
I know that he used to drain his batteries to like 8.6 volts or 8.4
I've heard so many crazy stories, and I know Eli from Two Rock does a lot of stuff with Eric Johnson, and he's like, can confirm that the dude has never stopped tone questing.
Yeah.
He's always looking for that extra 0.5%, which I honestly have so much respect for, because it's just like that's what it's all about. You're just trying to squeeze a little bit more inspiration out of what you're doing. I'm here for it. And if taking the screws out of the back of your 412 cabinet and moving them around, like, makes you feel like, hey, I'm gonna play better tonight. Fuck yeah, do it. Who cares?
Yeah. So when we first started at Revv, like within the first year, we hired, met this guy named Jason. We hired him as our artist relations guy to Nashville. And I mean, Jason is, largely responsible for me meeting a lot of the people that I know down in Nashville now. He's a great friend and great dude. He worked as a tech. He wasn't Eric's tech, but he was a tech on one of Eric's tours. I think he was maybe teching for the bass player. And I remember he had a tube screamer when I was down in Nashville doing something with Revv, and he brought his tube screamer to try with, I think, one of the original like Dynamis combos.
Yeah.
And he had the battery clip hanging out, and he had a 9 volt. And I'm just like, I got pedal power. He's like, no, 9 volts only. And I was like, oh, you're one of those? And he's like, look, man, it's like, I was completely skeptical until I worked on this tour. He's like, and Eric showed me like how, I can't remember the voltage, so don't, I mean, you can slaughter me in the comments for it. I actually don't care. Like 8 point whatever volts it was, how it sounded and felt better than anything else. So that's what.
Well, I mean,
Jason's doing.
you know from building amps, like the amount of voltage that you're feeding a tube makes a huge difference.
Yep.
So why would it, and it's the same with pedals. I mean, I think the rewards are probably less drastic, or maybe who knows? Maybe they're way more drastic. Like,
yeah, I think it would depend on how badly you starve it, right? Like, tube's a little bit more dynamic than a transistor circuit, so you might have some room there. But
in a wah pedal, a battery versus DC power you can hear it. Can you hear it when the band is playing? No, I can't. No. And the inconvenience of having to change a battery.
Yeah.
In a pedal that I'm legitimately probably not going to step on ever.
Yeah. That's the argument of modelers versus tube amps in a live setting. Like, is the audience going to be able to tell? No. Not if not if front of houses. What they will be able to tell is if you play worse. Like, if it were me,
that's what I was.
And I'm not going to shit on modelers, but I have an XFX3 and I have sitting right there, and I have the Helix, and I just play worse through them because they respond so much different than the tube amp, and the low end response is so different that it feels stiffer to me, it feels faster to me, and I feel like I have to adjust how I play, and then. Like, as soon as you're doing that, you're thinking about what the hell's wrong with my rig, or what the hell's wrong that something doesn't feel right, and you're no longer just playing, right? Yeah. And so to me, that's the argument for, well, I would always want to play tube amp, and where the audience might hear it is that I might make more mistakes being like, a semi-professional player, like not a pro player. I might make more mistakes because I feel weird and like the rig doesn't feel right to me, and that might be the only way it translates. But for pro players, I mean, you go see Sean Tubbs play and he's using an XFX or using an amp. There's no way you're going to tell in the audience. Yeah. It's going to be right. It's the same. I'm sure it's the same with you. Like,
well, probably not.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. These flappy hands, they only go through tubes, baby.
All right. Well, anyway. Why don't we hear them flappy hands on your Maxon? And cool pedal.
Thanks.
Yeah. Do I need to turn it on?
Yeah. No, just the.
Oh yeah. I need to give you back the signal.
Yes, please.